So, Uncharted Territory. I didn't know what I was going to title this class today until I was listening to the BBC at about 4 a.m, and I heard this story pop up. And the story is called Uncharted Territory. And the reason we're in uncharted territory, and what they were referring to as the story, is that March marked the 10th month in a row that we broke a temperature record on the planet. That this past March was the hottest March in history. And we have said that for the previous 9 months, about February, January, December, November, etc. And the idea is that, hey, look, some of this, what's going on right now, is from El Nino. So we know that. But the question is, but when El Nino subsides, are we going to see some kind of a rebalance or what? And we don't know, okay? So I thought the BBC title said we're in uncharted territory. And I said, okay, this is beautiful for today's conversation, which is going to be about climate change. And you all represent different areas of the world. And so that's why you're up here. You don't have to know anything about climate change, because what's curious to me, and what should be curious and interesting to you, is we're not here to talk about the facts of climate change, because there are no, I'm not going to turn to 6 random people and say, what are the facts of climate change? You're going to try to go to the science. But what is really interesting is just picking 6 people out randomly from this class that are from different areas of the world and saying, what are you thinking about climate change? So this is what we're going to do. So I have a list of questions that I got from my wife. So why don't we, Ludi, why don't we start with you? And so you two will share that mic, you two share this mic, and you share this mic.
Hi, I'm Ludi. I'm a sophomore majoring in landscape contracting, and I'm from Upper Darby, Pennsylvania.
In your background?
Both of my parents are from Brazil. I'm also a citizen in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to speak in part as a Brazilian American.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Sebastian, and I'm a senior in nuclear engineering, and I'm originally from Colombia.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sadie. I'm a second-year student in archaeology. I'm from State College, Pennsylvania.
Archaeology. How'd you choose archaeology?
So it's actually a really funny story. I came to school here for meteorology, and my parents are alumni. So we have generations here in State College. Like, my great-grandmother was the first woman to work in the Willard building when it was still the bursar's office.
Uh-huh.
So we have roots here. But my first major was meteorology, but I have a math disability, so I couldn't keep up with the calculus. So I chose to go for archaeology as a second choice.
Cool. Awesome, man. It's a really cool major. Yo, hang on. Yo, dogs. Fuck. Yo, come on, man. Seriously. Yo, bro. Yo. Hair guy. Dudes. You guys. Everyone's going to follow you, man. All right? If you guys talk, we're doomed. All right, bro.
All right. Okay, it's actually working. Hi, my name is Giovanni. I'm a second year, and my major is agricultural business, and I'm from like the Westchester area, but my heritage is like Puerto Rico, so that's basically what I'm speaking for.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Rachna. I'm a junior studying HPA, and my background is that I was born and raised in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. So you're Malaysian. Uh-huh.
Hi, my name is Jia Yi, and I'm a freshman currently major in sociology, and I'm born and raised in Zhejiang, China.
So, and your English name is Jesse, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll use Jesse.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Are you all ready? So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of pop around. And I'm just curious. And the reason we came to this class, is because I've been really tracking this issue a fair amount, and a lot actually. And I'm always just, when I see a story like this that is just like, oh my God, we're in uncharted territory. And I think, that has very different meaning for me as a 63-year-old than it does for you. A 63-year-old without kids, I should add, right? I don't even have a dog. I don't even have a turtle or a fish. I have nothing that I'm responsible for. So I'm just curious about what you all are thinking. And so I'm going to start here. What do you know? And we're not going to, I'm not going to ask a question and we're going to go down the line. So we sort of have to pop around. If someone gives an answer that's similar to what the answer you would get, don't respond, because I have a lot of questions. So the first thing is, what do you know about climate change? Wait, dude, you're the nuclear engineering guy.
Climate change, it is a real thing. I know some conservatives go out there and say like, oh, this is not real. It's been affecting us ever since, I guess, the Industrial Revolution 300 years ago. It is a trend, while we keep increasing our factories and increasing our production, increasing our population as well, something that's going to happen naturally. But I do believe we have the power to kind of revert some of that damage that we've been causing.
Okay, so you're thinking, okay, this is a real thing. Yep, somebody else. Anybody?
Climate change includes a lot of parts.
A lot of parts?
Yeah, like temperature increase and like carbon dioxide emissions and like extreme weather.
Dude, spoken like a sociologist. It has a lot of parts. Awesome. Okay. Go ahead. Somebody else.
Climate change is a really real and really scary thing. So I follow the weather trends of it more than I do like anything else, because that's my background. Like,
oh, you were in right, because
I
you
was
were
in
meteorology.
the atmospheric sciences part.
Okay, wait, hang on. Before we go, I just want to say something to the stream. Listen, here's what's up. These are students, okay? And what they're talking about here is not truth, but they're beliefs. So you don't have to go all hog on the chat and stuff about like, oh my God, this person's so whatever. They're talking their beliefs and their thoughts about these things, okay? None of the people, well, except this guy who's graduating with a degree in nuclear engineering, no one's saying they're scientists here. But we're talking about, we get the opportunity to hear what it is that they think and they believe. Okay, so you think it's really real?
It is 100% real. If you look at the weather trends, for example, tornado season is becoming earlier and earlier every year. And it used to be, I want to say, like April to June. We're getting tornado outbreaks with severe tornadoes as early as February and March now, especially in like the deep south where it's warmer. And I'm sure this year it's because El Nino, but even in non-El Nino years, we're getting more and more destructive weather.
Okay.
And
yeah, I like how you said that too.
It's genuinely terrifying. Like,
okay.
It's costing people their lives.
All right, hang on. We'll come back. Somebody else.
So I haven't really heard too much about climate change lately. Like, I remember like a couple years ago hearing about like the icebergs and stuff, about like how like they were melting a lot quicker. But like I haven't heard anything as of lately. But what I do know is that I would say it's a serious issue, although it's going to be really hard to deal with now, because I feel like we've just been so far along, like gone with like all like using like all like this like just bad stuff for the environment. So I think we're just like a little bit too far along to where we can definitely like slow it down, but I feel like it's like basically like inevitable.
So let me ask, okay, those of you who haven't spoken yet, Rachna, what do you know to be true, absolutely true? Or first off, is there something that you believe to be absolutely true about climate change? And if so, what is that?
I'd say like in terms of like global temperature rising, it definitely has throughout the years, and it's just like in Malaysia we had one of the hottest days ever. I speak in Celsius. I don't really know what it is in Fahrenheit, but
What is it in Celsius?
I think our temperature went up to like 39, but with a feel of 45.
Yeah.
And that was like that for almost like a week. And it was so bad that even my dogs couldn't be outdoors. It was
Yeah.
So in terms of that, I'd say like that's like a pretty solid indicator.
Uh-huh.
And then you'd see like news articles of the icebergs are melting and all of that. So that would be
So
my
for
thing.
you know that part to be true. There are these, it's kind of what Sadie had said about there are these things, we're seeing all these weather events that are unprecedented, and in your country you're seeing them.
Yeah.
Okay. Ludi, how about you? What do you know to be true?
That's kind of a tough question. Can I just give you my opinion on climate change, or like what I think about it when it's brought up?
It's all opinions at this point.
Okay.
And when I say, what do you know to be true, you could say, I really don't know anything to be true
Yeah, I
about
don't.
climate change. So,
Just like Sebastian said, I think he said something about, what was it?
So that happens naturally.
Yeah. So I'm totally bouncing off. I'm so sorry. Just
No, go
nervous
ahead,
up
go
here,
ahead.
guys. I think that we're in such a progressive world that no matter how much you care about climate change, it's never going to be balanced. So like the world's going to keep progressing. We're going to keep building factories, and we're going to keep building new homes,
uh-huh.
and more land's going to be taken. I don't know. what to
Well,
say.
so does that mean that one thing that is true for you, it sounds like, is
Yes.
we're not going to be able to stop this thing? All the
No.
things that we're doing, all the things that people are saying are causing climate change.
Yeah, I think all of us as individuals can do so much on our end,
Mm-hmm.
and it can, just because 5 people decide to recycle, it doesn't mean that anything is going to change.
Okay. All right. So one thing you believe is true is that you're not very optimistic about. I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth here, right? I'm trying to be really clear. You're not particularly optimistic because you're thinking like Jesse down there, like a sociologist, and being like, yeah. Hey, wait. By the way, hey, can I say something really fast? I want to say something. You all pretend you're not listening to me, okay? Y'all, listen. What's really curious about this topic that we're talking about right here is that there's no other topic. Climate change is the one thing in the world that, if it's true, if everything that the scientists are saying is true, it is going to radically transform life on the planet. Radically transform life on the planet for all beings. Now, that doesn't mean that that's bad. Some beings, some species are going to thrive. Other species are not. But it is going to radically transform life on the planet. And for me, you can make the argument, and at your ages, right, you can make the argument. It's like, well, there's nothing we can do, right? You're like, well, I can recycle, or I can do this, or I can do that. But in the end, it's so big that, and so this is what this part what we want to talk about, okay? So it's like, it's so, when I sit for a hot minute and I think about, we're just talking like climate change, right? But when I think about what we're really talking about, and in my travels and my experience of watching this around the world, like Rachna, what you said about the hottest days, every nation, every area of the world has the same thing. In the past, it was the past 10 years, and then it's like, we thought, okay, we hit it, and then it's the past 5 years, and then it's the past year. And it's like, holy shit. So anyway, we're not fear-mongering here, but it really is worth thinking about. Like, man, okay, so you're saying, yeah, one of my beliefs is that I'm not really sure we can get our hands around this thing. Somebody else, bro. Giovanni, do you have?
Because I wanted to get back into what you were saying about like what is true about climate change, and what I think is true is that it's going to take a global effort to fix like what has already happened, like in terms of climate change. Like I remember 2 months ago, like I was like I saw like this just a whole bunch of memes on Instagram around about like how Taylor Swift like flew to the Super Bowl, and it was like 15-20 minute like flight, and it's like that alone just kind of like that like makes up for like a year of like someone, like if someone were cycled for a year straight, that just gets completely invalidated by that one flight that Taylor Swift made. And it's just kind of like it's going to be it takes a global effort. It's going to take a global effort if we want to fix this, like if we want to at least like slow down the progress.
How about, do one of you, what do you know to be absolutely, what do you think is absolutely true about climate change? As this 18-year-old woman who grew up in China, on the other side of the planet, okay?
Yeah.
Is there something that you just believe to be absolutely true about climate change?
The temperature will rise, and one thing I have noticed is that when I take in airplanes, there's like turbulence issue.
So yeah, right. So we're seeing more turbulence.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're seeing issues everywhere we look, by the way, right? How about this? How much do you think about it? How much do you all think about climate change? Don't be all PC with us here, like really.
I mean, me coming from a nuclear engineering background, like we talk about it like every single day. Just this past weekend, we had a conference here in Penn State. It was the American Nuclear Society. And one of the goals that they have established for the future is to transition into net zero CO2 emission by the year like 2050. So it is a growing like factor in our economy. We are putting like our hands on it, and we definitely want to revert like what we've been doing. But as I was saying, and as he said, it's a global effort. You know, it's hard for us to say like, I can make a difference by like taking the bus in the morning. But yeah, then you have Taylor Swift flying like from one part of LA to another part of LA in her like private jet. So like whatever we do kind of gets diminished. But like all these people are just like flying like crazy or like doing all these like crazy things. So rather than just like, I mean, it helps to incentivize people to like do good things. But it's instead of like doing that, we can just do things that have like a larger impact.
But in your background, like in your studies here, you're thinking about it all the time. Yeah. And you're thinking about it. You guys, is there anybody over there, do you run into any professors who are really questioning whether it's happening and that sort of thing?
Not at all. That's one of our like motivations pretty much, you know, like how do we not convince people that like nuclear is like safe and all that if we don't have like something that is a existing like factor, like a recurring like problem in our world. You
know, there's a professor in engineering who was a rear admiral in the USS Navy, and he came to Penn State. I think he's still here. I haven't seen his name recently, but a few years ago, maybe like 6, he came into 119 and we had a conversation about climate change. And you know, he was talking about how the U.S. military is making plans for climate change, meaning like has plans on the books to all the Navy bases to move them inland, right? Because as seawater rises, you know, the bases where they are and where all the docks and the ports are will be overwhelmed. And so the U.S. military is making those plans to adjust because they think climate change is, because it's real, right? For them, anyway. So somebody else, what was the question I asked you, bro? How often do you think about it? How often Rachna, how often do you think about it?
I mean, it's like, it's there in the back of my mind. I'm not going to say that I'm always thinking about it, but like when it's really pushed to the forefront, it's like when you're scrolling on TikTok and then something shows up about the environment or how climate crisis is actually affecting us. Or I think there's this one that I saw the other day, and it was how much like the earth sort of improved while everybody was on lockdown, because there were just no CO2 emissions. Like ecosystems were just thriving, and like in that sense I was like, oh, it's not like actively on my mind, but it's there.
Do you feel like, are you, the way you responded to that question, it seems like you think it should be actively on your mind?
I feel like it should actively be on my mind, because at the end of the day, this is like our world. We are living in it, and if like it gets worse, it's because of us. Like as what he said, like Taylor Swift's jet completely negates something that a whole bunch of people would have had to do. And yeah, that's
Okay, but let me ask you this question, right? So if it's on your mind, how, if you're thinking about it and you're worrying about it, how does that positively impact it? You know, I mean, what good does that do other than make you unhappy and depressed?
It makes me, I want to say, be more conscious about my actions in terms of things that I do. But at the same time, I feel like, you know how like they have like stores nowadays have more like eco-friendly options in terms of like paper straws instead of plastic straws.
Yeah.
But they tend to make the eco-friendly options more expensive than the generic, not generic, but the regular.
Yeah. No, because they are more expensive. But listen, Ludi said, to tell her can you respond to her? She just said, yeah, because I should be thinking about it because I should be responding. And you said, it doesn't matter.
I feel like I contradict myself when it comes to a lot of topics, and this happens to be one of them.
Good.
Because,
that's fine.
Like, I wanted to respond to how often climate change brings up. For me, it comes up in really random conversations. Like, for example, my roommates and I. My one roommate,
hold the mic close. Yeah.
She is a mechanical engineering major, and her brother works for Rivian, which is like an electric car company. And me, I hate electric car companies. I hate hybrid cars. If I could, I would drive a diesel truck. I don't drive a diesel truck. I drive a gasser.
Why?
But like, I don't know. Like, to make that battery for the car, you're doing just as much damage as driving.
Okay, so hang on. Do you know that to be true?
Yeah.
No, do you really know? I'm not asking this question because I think I have an opinion about it. I'm asking this question to you to say, do you know it to be true? Because that's a big statement, that making the battery, you're doing just as much damage as having a gas-powered car.
In the long run, they say that the battery-powered cars are better, and I can see that. But I think, thinking in like my lifespan, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but my lifespan, I don't see any difference. Well, I could be totally wrong, though, because I don't know. I'm not that educated on the topic.
Okay, all right, that's cool. So what I'm hearing you say is, on this issue, I have a lot of kind of random thoughts here and there.
Yeah.
Which is what most of us have about most issues. For me, it's every issue I have random thoughts. I hear you saying that.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to find your way through the morass, so to speak.
Because I recycle. My roommates don't. But like, I'll recycle. I like to save more water. I will reuse anything that I possibly can. I'll do my part. But I know that like half of the people in this room could not do their part. I know you probably do your part. I don't doubt it. And she does her part. But like, Sadie could not do her part. I think you do. Don't worry. But
can I say something right here?
Yeah.
That you'll find, I think, interesting. This isn't about you. I mean, you'll find it interesting. Listen. So one of the things we know when we ask people questions about their behavior and their actions compared to those of other people around them, their peers, and about ethics and this sort of, like recycling, right? Like, I'm going to pick a number out because the number is actually going to be higher than this, but I'm going to just pick a number out. 90% of the like college students will say that they recycle more than their peers. It's actually about 99% will say they recycle more than their peers, and that they're above average in terms of how much energy and so on they put to things like that. So that would mean if we asked everyone in this class, there would be 6 people that said, like, yeah, I don't recycle as much as my peers. But in fact, we know that half of you are above average and half of you are below average, right? So I'm just saying, I'm just pointing that out to you. Not to point out that that's you, it's just to point out it's fascinating how much we do that. Somebody else, like, how often are you thinking about it? Sadie, how often are you thinking about it?
Oh, I think about it all the time.
Hey, what are you thinking, like, when you're thinking about it?
I'm just wondering how we can get ourselves out of it. Because it's going back to mostly like the weather patterns, but I also work for a Way Fruit Farm here. And all the time I hear my bosses talking about how the crops are just starting to like dwindle down because it gets hotter here every year.
Uh-huh.
Like, I've been here the last 8 or 9 years of my life. And even I'm starting to notice how State College's winters, they're disappearing. Like 2 or 3 years ago, we would have had actual snowstorms like December, January, February. We had like one snowstorm this whole like year, pretty much.
The past 3 years, actually.
The past few years.
So, wait. Do you think... Yo, man. So, what I'm hearing... So you're thinking about it all the time?
I am thinking about it all the time, yeah.
Uh-huh. And you're thinking about it because you're seeing things and encountering things. Do you go out of your way to also look for things? I know, like,
I do.
at work.
Oh, I absolutely do go out of my way to look for things.
Look for information about climate change. And
Absolutely.
What's going on. Bro, how about you? How often are you thinking about it?
Well, I don't really do it nearly like that much. Like, I do small things, like if I'm taking out my trash, like I'm gonna filter out like the water bottles, and also like if I am drinking water, I tend to use like my Brita filter, and I'll just try to like use that as much as I can rather than buying water bottles, because I know that's one of the biggest things, to just like water bottles. I mean, like.
But going back to just thinking about climate change in your future and where you're at, like how often is it?
It's really not that often. Like maybe like occasionally, like once in a while when I see it like come up in the news, and I'm like, huh, yeah, that's like a thing.
When you say that's a thing, what do you? Wait, dudes, hang on a second. Hey, listen, man. Look now. Okay, I'm really close to getting pissed. And so what's going to happen if that happens is you just don't. Like, it takes can you imagine how much it takes to get me really angry? Can you imagine it? So I'm getting there. So look, now I'm deputizing everyone in the room. Yo, gentlemen, dude, what the fuck? Come on, right? Dude, so everybody, if the person in front of you is talking, your job is to tap them on the shoulder, okay? So we're done. We can't do this here. And then what happens is the conversation isn't interesting because nobody can zero in on it. And I can't zero. Yo, hang on. Dude, I'm talking about it right now and you're talking. Fuck. Then I can't think. And if I can't think, then I can't ask good questions. And if I don't ask good questions, they don't have good answers. And if they don't have interesting answers, in response, then the conversation's really boring. And then you're sitting here saying, I should have skipped class. I should have gone golfing. I really should have, because that conversation was boring. And it's boring because of the issue of the crowd. Like, you think that you don't matter here, and you do, because 30 small voices in this room bounce down here, and we really hear them. So to your job, listen, we really have 32 minutes left. Your job is to say nothing. Nothing for 32 minutes. Okay? Do I need that? All right, so listen. So what I'm hearing from you is, I'm not thinking about it a lot. And how do you feel what do you think about the fact that you're really not thinking about it very much? Like, what do you think about that?
Is it? Okay. It was doing a little something funky there. The reason why I would say I don't really think about it as much is because I don't really see it like that much. Like, it's not like you see so many other different things like on the news, like about like, oh, like UConn just won like March Madness and stuff like that. Like, but like I don't really see like anything like on like climate change. So it's like, if like the government or like just like main media sources aren't promoting it, it's like I really like don't see it, and then I'm not really going to think about
And
it.
so, because, how old are you?
I am 19.
Because you're 19, and you're thinking about your future.
Correct.
And if you think about climate change, what do you think, when you think about climate change, if climate change is real and it's happening, what's your future look like?
But I don't know what the future is look like, but I have a concern. It is bad that I've learned humans' effort is helpless to the climate change. Because saying the temperature increasing, the main reason for the increasing temperature is due to the greenhouse gases, and there are a lot of kind of greenhouse gases. But there's a saying, a cow can produce methane when they fart, and the amount of greenhouse gases is much more proportion than the human does.
So, okay, so in China, were you talking about this when you were in high school? Are we talking about it in China? Is this an issue that people are talking about?
No, it's a global issue.
Yeah, I know, but how often are you talking about it in China?
Just talk in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, like on the news, is there a lot of, in this city, what city are you from?
It's a small city in Zhejiang province.
Do you guys, is there a lot of smog?
It's not a big city.
So there's not smog like in Beijing or Shanghai or something?
Yeah.
But how often, when you were, say, back in China, do you remember having conversations with your friends or family or teachers or anything about climate change?
In daily life, the only thing we talk about is, oh, today is so hot. And I remember last year in summer, in like May, I went to Beijing and it's like 40 degrees Celsius, and for a week that is very hot.
Yeah, there was a major heat wave in Beijing. Yeah. So, but do you link it to like, oh my God, the future? Like, so when you think about your future, what are you thinking?
Like what the Earth is going to be, and well, the climate keep increasing and being so hot to next generation cannot be live on the Earth.
So are you worried?
When talking about it, I feel worried, but we don't talk very often.
Okay, so this would be Ludi, right? Or Rachna, this would be a good reason to not talk about it. Why would you talk about something that you're worried about? This is only going to make you nervous and worried, right? Rachna, right? Why would you talk about it?
I mean, if like there is a reason to be worried about climate change. I feel like our generation is not gonna. I mean, it's affecting us, but I feel like it's really gonna affect the next generation that much more, and future generations to come if there will be.
Okay, here,
You wanna
let me
go?
say something. Bro, can you respond to that? It's not really going to affect you guys that much. Do you have a response to that?
I mean, I would say that it's affecting us at the moment. That's why we see like the trending, like change the temperature in state college, for instance. But I feel like that's sort of a selfish like way of thinking. When you go like, oh, it's not going to affect me, it's going to affect the future people, because it is our job to like change that, for it's like our kids or grandkids don't suffer from our mistakes, you know.
But
And that goes with like the economy. That comes with everything.
But dude, why don't you ask Rachna about the record-breaking heat day that she experienced? If you're at this age, my friend, it's record-breaking. Go ahead 10 years into your life. What's that record gonna be? Do you have a thought on that? Like, it's record-breaking now. What's it gonna be in 10 years? Dude, how old are you gonna be in 10 years?
Like 32.
32. How about 20 years? You'll be 42. You still won't even be close to my age. Like,
I'm not saying like it doesn't affect our generation at
Yeah.
all. Like, I'm not saying that in any way. I do agree that the previous generation made a fair bit of mistakes that we now have to correct if we want to help our future generations,
Uh-huh.
is more so where
uh-huh.
my thought process was going towards.
No, listen. No. Look, and by the way, I want to be really clear. I'm not critiquing you
Oh,
at
no,
all.
no.
I'm just pushing you into a corner to have to confront something like, hey, this is either is or it isn't.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering about, you know, think about Way Fruit Farm. They can't. It's hard to get the fruit. Like, where are we going to go when we need the apple trees aren't blossoming correctly. Like, where are we going to go? We're just going to keep planting apple trees more north, and then within 40 years, we're going to be growing apples, and then up in the northern Canada.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at what point is it? So I'm curious then for you all, just this fear question and thinking about it. Like, what's your generation doing? Because one way to deal with the fear is to say like, oh, it's not going to affect me so much. And I just got to tell you, that's not what I'm hearing. That's not what I'm hearing at all. So and I'm also hearing that I don't necessarily think you ought to be sitting around worried about it. Go play golf, like whatever. Well, we still have golf courses. No, I mean, okay, that's not really true, but you understand. I'm not being the voice of fear and horror and oh my God, the future is terrible, the future is bleak. I'm just trying to figure out how it is that our brains are dealing with it. Giovanni, what do you?
Well, I mean, the way at least I think, like looking at it, is like the past generation before us didn't tell us about like I knew it was definitely like somewhat of a problem like back then, because that's when the cars like when we started like advancing. So the past generation before us, like I never, like my mom and dad never once really mentioned climate change. So like for them, it's like it's not my problem. We're gonna be gone by then. So I guess like this generation's looking at it like, oh, it's not gonna be our problem. We're gonna be gone by then. So I think that like that's just like the thought process. Like the past generation wasn't worrying about it, so why should we worry about it?
So it just happens in that way. Can I tell you something though? I had my very first so I taught my first class 39 and a half years ago. It was on human ecology and technology. I spent 2 weeks on climate change. This was 1984. And so your parents may not have been talking about it, but other people were talking about it. It's been a thing. So, yeah. So the fear piece, in talking to just the fear, like how do you deal with the anxiety of it? Because bro, I want to go back to you for a second. You're saying like, yeah, we got to really fix this thing. But come on, man, you're studying nuclear engineering. And Jesse already said, and you said, the system is in place. It's just like a big hamster wheel. It's just spinning and spinning and spinning. We got to fix poverty, and we have to build new houses, and we have to build new buildings, and we have to do all these things, and everybody wants a car, and we need more batteries. Meaning that we have to just spin the economy faster and faster and faster, because if we don't, y'all aren't going to have jobs, you're not going to have things, so we got to spin and spin and spin and get that thing humming, meaning that we're just going to produce more and more CO2. And like, oh my God. Okay, so do you can you kind of give a response to that? Like,
Yeah, I do want to say something. I guess I'm going to defend her because I think I call her selfish. I think we're all selfish in a way. And I feel like the people that do not actively think about climate change, it's not that they don't care. It's that they don't care enough to like make a big like change in their lives. Like I can say, yeah, I care about climate change. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to take a plane to Colombia when I have a chance, you know. Doesn't mean I'm not going to drive to college, supposedly I taking the bus. So I think we're all like selfish. We all say like, oh yeah, I want to take an active like measure on this, but nobody wants to change the way they live for that to happen. So some people just like know to like say that they care actually.
do you think that's true, Rachna, that nobody wants to change the way they live? Wait, and then I'm going to ask the sociologist down here. Do you think nobody wants to change the way they live?
I feel like people do want to change the way they live. It's just not fully, like, it's for selfish reasons. It's not fully efficient towards their lifestyle to want to change the way that they live. Like, they could try to do like little things like, yeah, I could separate my trash. I could like completely like bring my own bags from home instead of bringing back like plastic bags from the grocery store and things like that. I feel like those little things make people feel like they're making a difference, but in like a global scheme, it's just very, very minuscule.
Yeah, so like when you're at Way Fruit Farm and you can put people's fruits in a paper bag rather than a plastic bag, and you feel just a little bit good, okay, that's good. You know what I mean, this kind of thing. So I want to just push, wait, do you have a quick response to that? Just a quick response. Go ahead.
So whenever people do get like smaller purchases, like the apple cider donuts, for example, like or baked goods, I try to put them in the paper bags we have. But if it's only, we don't have big enough paper bags there, and I'm gonna definitely talk to my bosses about it later.
Okay, so here's the thing. What if it wasn't selfishness? What if you really, all people are doing are trying to live their lives according to the way we've been shown to live our lives? And we're trying to live it according to other people around us. We're just living. You know, you want to get your degree, then you want to get a job, and you know, you want to have a space, and you want to most of you want to travel a little bit, you want to see things, you want to have a space of your own, you want to get some furniture, and you know, you want to get some new furniture, and you want this and you want that, and we all want the same things. I mean, this is the nature of it. And maybe that's not selfish. Maybe that's just basic sociology. It's just like we are products of life around us. So, you know, maybe it's just not selfish at all. And maybe that keeps us from seeing something. Right? Bro, maybe it's not selfish at all. Can you like just say something on that? Maybe you're just being human.
Yes, right. We're all being human. I do believe that. But as I say, like, I'm not willing to change like the things I do at the moment.
Well, but hang on. But why should you though? Why should you change?
Because if I call myself an advocate for like climate change initiatives, I should be the one putting myself in the front line and say, okay, I'm gonna make a change in my life. But I'm not, you know, like.
But maybe, but let me ask you this question. When you look out over here, right, and if you knew. Let's just say recycling. Let's take recycling for a second here. You know, you got all these recycling containers out there, and now you have something that you got to figure out if it's going to go in the recycling, which one it's going to go in. And so you got a piece of paper. You know, I leave the classroom and I've got this piece of paper, and I got to decide, like, I got to just take a couple minutes to look down and be like, okay, which one says paper? And then, oh, shit, this one says paper, this one says newspaper. Now I'm confused, right? I have a moment. I got to stop again, and I got to say, like, wait, is it newspaper or paper? No, it's not newspaper, it's paper. And then there it is, I put it in. Now I've taken 20 seconds out of my life to do that. And then I look at the paper one, and there's a plastic cup in there. And there's a tin can in there because, somebody else came along and just threw it in. Like maybe before I did the same thing. And then I say, what's the purpose? Why am I bothering with this? Because it's not happening. But what if you knew, Sebastian, what if you knew every time you left, every time you passed recycling containers, you saw people who were standing in front of them trying to figure out, like, okay, hang on, which one goes and where, and if someone made a mistake, they take it out of this one, they put it there. And everyone was really doing that. You'd probably do the same thing. Because we're sheep, we follow other people. That's what we do. We follow we do. What do you think about that?
People do it when they see that there's definitely pressure on doing the right thing when everybody's watching you. That doesn't mean that if I go to the trash bins and I don't see the ideal one, doesn't mean that I'm gonna put it in my pocket and just wait until I find correct disposal for it. I'm just gonna throw it at the most accurate one.
But I'm saying, if you knew everybody else was doing that, you would do it.
Oh, of course.
I mean, if you knew, for example, let me say, if you get a chance to fly down to Colombia, where is your family from in Colombia?
Where? Cali.
In Cali? So if you had a chance to fly down to Cali, and you're going to take it every chance you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to here's a free ticket, bro. Why don't you come down to Cali with me? You and I'll go down, we'll do whatever. You're like, yeah, all right, I'll go down to Cali. But what if you knew, but you could say, but you know what? That's not really good. It's just more CO2 in the air. I'm not going to fly. But you have no motivation to do that because everybody else is going to do the same thing. So why are you not going to do it? Mm-hmm. But what if you knew that, listen, in the next decade, I have X number of air miles that I can use. And everybody does. Every single human being on the planet has a certain number of air miles, and we're all going to follow the same thing. And for whatever reason, of course, this would never work in the United States, because we want our freedom to do whatever we want to do. But nonetheless, if you knew that, I would imagine it'd be a lot easier to just sort of follow along because everybody else is doing it. So you're going to do what everybody else does. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
It is true. If everybody did it, it would be easier. But I think we're most driven towards the most economical options in a lot of cases. So just an example, I think in Switzerland they do have a very intense recycling program. In the way that they actually have to pay for the trash to be disposed. Mm-hmm, so they actually they get the little tea bag and they separate the little metal part of it and they put in the metal thing and all that because it costs them. People don't make a change in their lives unless there's a direct impact in their pocket,
Yeah, well, one of the reasons maybe is this is, by the way, my sociology student here. One of the things in sociology we call it the free rider problem. If we don't see other people doing it, we'll just let other people make the change that's uncomfortable, and then we don't have to do it. So you have to set up situations where being a free rider, meaning not having to sacrifice, is a good thing. Did you have we have a question? Do you have a question, Mo?
I just want to push back on the discussion and discuss the preservation as a privilege, because everyone here is affluent or at least sufficient enough to even fancy the idea of conservation. But there's so many people out there who their lifestyle, the best they can do is horrible to the economy. They're still using coal as their, not economy, the ecology. They're using coals and everything like that. And a lot of those people we don't really discuss about because, well, they really don't have any options. And I wanted to hear from the perspective of the people who we are, rich enough to talk about these kind of matters, how you guys view that issue.
How do you think about that?
So the problem isn't with the average everyday person. The bigger issue is with the corporations that funnel money into the government that keep this stuff legal. Like, the average daily person isn't going to burn enough coal to cause global warming. That's not the person we should be worrying about. We should be trying to get the fossil fuel companies to like try and change. It's not the average person.
Okay, so you're saying what Ludi said earlier about individuals matter less than big system change.
While individuals do matter, just doing what you can is enough. If you need to survive the winter with coal, then you survive the winter with coal. But if you can cut back in other little ways, like Jay with the Brita filter, instead of like using like a plastic single-use water bottle, there's littler ways you can do things.
So how much do people around you, so this would be a question I would have if I were watching this conversation. I really want to know how many people around you are doing things like using bottles like this of water because they're really trying to preserve the planet.
Every day in my household, we all have like our own like hydro flasks, and in my household we have like the attachment on the fridge that gives us like water, so we don't have to use water bottles pretty much. So it's pretty consistent every day.
Okay. And how about Rachna? How about in your household in Malaysia or people around you in Malaysia? How much are people like? To what degree do you see individuals making steps because of environmental issues?
At least in my household, we each have our own like versions of hydro flasks essentially. Like we have our own bottles and we fill up, and like our water in the house is filtered, so we just fill it up in the house as opposed to buying plastic bottles, like single-use ones, as she said. But
how about other things?
I do feel like single-use plastic is very, very big there, like in terms of if you were to go to like a hawker stall to get your meals, if you want your drinks and you want to like take it to go, it's given in like this little plastic bag with like a straw, and that's all plastic, and then that just gets thrown in the trash,
ends up in the rivers.
Like it's, I want to say that we are trying to make a change, but it's like it's not easy for people to change a habit that they have become used to doing. It's like, okay, I do this and I know I'm just going to throw this. I don't want to like spend an extra 10 minutes looking for a recycling bin and then have to sort it out and then throw it into the trash.
What would it take for you to do that? To really go, because Sebastian was saying, hey, I'm going to do the things that I can do. I mean, because I'm built like that. How about for you? What would it take for you to really step outside of your everyday kind of life? And
here's the thing, like in my house at home, we sort out our trash in terms of like separating it based on like cardboard, plastic, and whatnot. But then if you're like out and about in like a mall or things like that, you don't have recycling bins just there. You just have like a big trash can every like couple feet, and you're like, all right.
And when you put something in one of those trash cans that doesn't belong there, like it's not gonna get recycled, and you put it in because you just have to. What are you thinking in that moment? Or
sometimes
don't be all politically correct here, because just what are you thinking in that moment?
Well, sometimes, not often, quite rarely, I'm not gonna lie, there's like maybe a little bit of guilt. I'm like, I could be throwing this in another trash can, but then otherwise I'm just like, this is just for convenience sake. Like if I'm out with my friends, I finish drinking like a soda or something, I'm just gonna toss it in the trash and then keep going. I'm not gonna be like, wait guys, I have to find a recycling bin.
Ludi, that sounds like you also.
I feel like it just has to do with the individual's level of importance. It could be to Sebastian, I find it really important to him. It's literally what he's going to school for. But for me, I'm like, I'm 50-50 on it. I don't know.
Well, hey, okay, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction here.
Yeah.
I'm just out of curiosity. When I said earlier that if climate scientists are correct in some of the things that they're thinking and how the system could, the problem isn't, just so you know, the problem isn't that the temperatures just sort of slowly keep rising and the system just slowly changes. Change happens, there's this ways in which it's often punctuated. The systems, they get out of whack, they slowly start to get out of whack, and then suddenly something just tips. It's called the tipping point, and then it really gets out of whack, and then it finds another place of equilibrium or stasis or so on, and then it slowly starts to change, and then it really changes, and the concern is that this whole climate thing, at some point, we're just going to cross over a line, and then it's just going to start to spiral, and it's just one of those mierderos, bro. It's a mierdero. Yeah. Can you explain to her what that is? Mierdero.
Like a shitbox or something, like something bad. Yeah.
Yeah, a shitstorm. Yeah. Okay. So, when I say, if the climate scientists, I'm curious to what you think about that. If they're correct, it's like, whoa, you guys, we might be headed toward a mierdero. Like, how is that for someone who's 19? You're 19? You're 20? How is that for you?
My dream is to live on a farm.
Okay.
So when I think of it in terms of that, I'm like, will I ever get that if we keep going the way that we are going? Like, will I be able to live a sustainable life, a self-sustainable life, if our soils are polluted, or if, my crops won't grow in season?
And so how is that?
Makes you almost not want to bring kids into this world.
No, hang on. Not me, for you. How is that for you?
To be quite honest, I'm going to keep living my life the way I live it now.
Mm-hmm.
And if shit happens, shit happens.
Okay, that's fair. Giovanni, that sounds like how you're rolling.
I mean, yeah, I would say I'm taking a pretty similar approach to that, because I feel like you're saying what? There's a widespread problem, it's going to be happening soon.
No, hang on. I'm not saying that. I'm postulating. I'm saying imagine that these climate scientists are correct, and
yes,
some of the postulations, some of the hypotheses, was whoa, how is it to hear that?
I didn't mean to say it like that, but the hypotheses are this is going to happen soon. That's a prediction.
Could happen soon.
Yes. And I'm there's bigger companies seeing this, and they're oh well, how does that that doesn't affect me. So it's I'm in the same I'm kind of in the same boat to where I'm gonna have to do all this extra stuff while other people are just not worrying about it. It should be all or nothing. If it's a widespread order like Switzerland, I think that's what it was, where it's we're going to recycle more. Then I'm gonna be it's a problem, so I'm gonna deal with it. But it's if big companies aren't dealing with it, then why should I?
Big organizations. Yeah, bro. Okay. Was there a question from the stream? How much responsibility for climate change do you think rests with industry and corporations rather than consumers? Bro, do you have a response to that?
I mean, we're the consumers. We're the ones buying the product, So I think somebody was saying I forget what they were saying, but it's doesn't matter if you say you're gonna change the way you live. A lot of the things that we do that have a direct impact on our climate, you said I eat organic or all that, but that those avocados are coming from California, being shipped from California, or bananas. If you go to Walmart, they're being shipped from Costa Rica. Why we keep buying these things from these big corporations? They're gonna keep insisting. They're gonna keep increasing the production and all that. So it's a whole chicken and egg situation. You keep buying the things from the companies. Yeah. They're gonna keep producing it for the consumers.
Yeah, this is the sociology of it. Yeah, no, it's fascinating to watch.
Hang on. Yeah, I think the company are more responsible than individuals. Because just like you said, individuals just do their own lives. They live on their own lives. They use plastic bags just because the store just have plastic bags. Or if the company stop producing plastic bags, they produce paper bags. People will all use paper bags. Like in China, like we are using paper straws for milk tea and for Starbucks, and that's
like you use that. Like in Korea, that's really widespread, and in China, it's really widespread, and here it's picking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do that.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay. Do you know this Chinese government? Do you listen? Yo, hang on. This is the final question. Do you know what the official stance is like of the Chinese government on climate change?
I don't know, but I think they realize it's a big problem. Because they're using paper straws, and I know for Shanghai, they also sort their trash.
Yeah.
And they have punishment for if people don't do that.
Well, you have punishments if people don't sort their trash?
Yeah.
Oh, Penn State doesn't have that. There you go. That's what we need. We need Penn State to start punishing people for not recycling, sorting. All right. Hey, listen, man. So, thanks for the conversation. I think it's fascinating for me to hear what you all are thinking. Yeah.